What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. I don't know about you guys, but around this time of year, I'm always in the mood for a game of Werewolf the Apocalypse, Vampire the Masquerade, maybe a little Ravenloft, or perhaps some Call of Cthulhu. Well, today I'm going to tell you about a book that will allow you to play all those types of games within the Savage Worlds rule system. That book is the Savage Worlds Horror Companion. Let's get into it. If you are enjoying the content, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, as that may be the only way to keep Cthulhu dreaming in Rillier. If you want to dive a little deeper into the Books, Bricks, and Boards mythos, be sure to head on over to Books, Bricks, and Boards University Discord server to meet the best group of gaming scholars this side of Arkham. Link in the description. A brief history. The horror genre is nothing new to Savage Worlds. In fact, it is probably the single best represented genre to the game. What with Deadlands and all of its forms, East Texas University, and to some degree most of the other settings at least dabble in horror. That's not even acknowledging that there was a Cthulhu-specific setting, Realms of Cthulhu, in the earlier versions of the game. But as far as an actual horror companion, that was getting a little dated, having been published back in 2011 originally. Like the other two released Swade companion books, Supers and Fantasy, as well as the now available on PDF Science Fiction Companion, the Horror Companion doesn't just take the material from the older edition and refresh it as some games would do. No, Pinnacle took the goals and aspirations of the original work and made it relevant to the new edition, recognizing how the game and the inspiring fiction around it had changed over the intervening years. I'm happy to say that while I was initially lukewarm on this release, after spending some time with it, I think this easily earns its spot amongst the other Swade companion books, a masterpiece in its own right. Edges and Hindrances. Throughout the Horror Companion, you will find a huge variety of new and expanded information, starting with the player options. With enough new material to fill one of those cyclopean tombs we've been reading about for near 100 years now, players will be maniacally laughing with sadistic glee over the options that they're given in these pages. The book provides 16 new hindrances, some of my favorite being Bleeder, Doomed, and Night Terrors, and 10 new character edges, not including those specific to the monster characters or specific arcane backgrounds. More on those later. These new edges include Gallows Humor, Relentless, Veteran of the Dark World, my personal favorite, allowing a player to begin as a seasoned character but at the cost of insanity, Courage, Favored Power, Silent Caster, Monster Hunter, Scream Queen, Final Girl, and Visions. All of these edges are great at both evoking the imagery of the tropes that the horror genre is known for, as well as depicting them in such a way that mechanically makes sense. Pinnacle hit a home run on these. Monstrous Heroes. This is where Pinnacle really convinced me that this is a masterpiece. And man, did they nail this section like a stake through a vampire's cold heart. Each monster hero has certain universal benefits, like being able to enhance their physical attributes more than once per rank, or causing fear, or being able to tap into their monstrous rage inside them, but they also have specific abilities tailored to the style of monster represented. Each monster type also has a list of edges available to them that will further build out a trope of the subject beast over time. These monster types don't replace racial choices, but act as an overlay on top of a regular hero, making them much more powerful than a standard character, and in an interesting bit of cross-book integration, they suggest allowing non-monster heroes to gain 15 points of superpowers from the Super's Companion to balance out their abilities in the game. The monster player options include angels, demons, mummies, patchwork monsters, think Frankenstein, phantoms, revenants, vampires, and werewolves. Each of these has all of the benefits and setbacks that you would expect from their representation in fiction and folklore. Moreover, they each look like a lot of fun to play. To put it in perspective, I've been considering purchasing the new editions of Werewolf the Apocalypse and Vampire the Masquerade, but after solid contemplation, I just don't think they are going to offer anything I don't already have right here. What's more, I don't have to sell my players on learning a new system to play with this, as they already know Savage Worlds. Pretty high praise from me, as I was a player of the first edition of Vampire in the 90s. Gear. If you've seen any of the other Suede companion books, you will be pretty familiar with the format here, with the various different equipment, weapons, armor, and services all ably represented in a succinct but thorough section of the book. Some of the highlights in here for me were the obvious nods to pop culture and fiction, such as the Atomic Ghost Pack.
You know, it's just occurred to me we really haven't had a completely successful test of this equipment.
I blame myself.
So do I.
Well, no sense worrying about it now.
And the Holy Water Pistols, as well as the standard vampire stakes and holy symbols you'd expect to see. Lodges. If you've read the other Suede companion books, this is the expected variation of the bases found in the Supers book, the strongholds found in the fantasy book, or the outposts found in the science fiction book. That said, like the others, this takes the same formula but themes it for the horror genre and really does a nice job of creating a place that the players can call home, as well as giving the GM a carrot and stick to guide and reward players along the way. Setting rules. Throughout the Horror Companion, you get the clear message that these folks have a broad knowledge of the different types of horror stories, and that they seem to include ways to depict them all throughout the book. This is no different in the setting rules section. Some of the more interesting choices for inclusion, in my opinion, include the buckets of blood rule, whereby death creates geysers of blood that can cause mental traumas and the ensuing consequences that accompany them. There are also chronologically based modifiers triggering at certain times of the year, lunar cycles, or coinciding with the holidays, giving certain enemies powerful boosts to torment the players. How about the rules for storms, covering the effects of lightning and tornadoes on the game, including how much damage they may cause? There are also rules for warding and binding, with specific steps and rules to contain dangerous beasties, lest they wreak havoc upon your world at large. Perhaps my favorite setting rule is the Slaughterhouse rule, which can easily be used to run DCC-style funnels in the Suede core rules set. All of these, plus the expansion of the existing Fear and Psychosis rules, gives a Savage Worlds GM the toolkit to create whatever type of horror experience they're going for, with little to no homebrew necessary. Styles. As if all that were not enough for the enterprising GM to enjoy, like the Fantasy Companion and Super Companion before it, this book contains suggestions for setting rules to run specific games in IP-related situations, some of which include, in no particular order, Call of Cthulhu, Stranger Things, Dracula, Frankenstein, Sherlock Holmes, Ravenloft, Sweeney Todd, Army of Darkness, Zombieland, Buffy, Blade, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Alien, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone, Marvel Zombies, Batman, Swamp Thing, Constantine, Walking Dead, and Resident Evil, just to name a few. This section has become my favorite of the prior companions, and this is no different. The draw of the universal RPG like Suede comes from being able to play the stories you want to, without needing to learn a new rule set every time. And the styles do the legwork of setting the table, giving you a huge head start. Arcane backgrounds. Another familiar section to fans of the previous companions, the book gives us 10 arcane backgrounds, each with their own specific edges and quirks. For reference, the arcane backgrounds presented here are Alchemist, Blighted, Demonologist, Fortune Teller, Medium, Occultist, Priest, Psychic Investigator, Voodooist, and Warlock. In addition to the new backgrounds, there are 17 new powers, plus some updates to existing ones, covering some expected horror concepts. Arcane items. This section was really a treat as I dug in, as there are so many references either hidden or very blatantly depicted. Some of my favorites include the Diary of a Madman. Do we have any Scarface fans here? The Heartbeat Watch, the Necronomicon, the Monkey's Paw, the Portrait of Immortality, Possessed Dolls, Jack the Ripper's Scalpel, Jason's Hockey Mask, and even the Blood Money of Judas Iscariot. Each of these different items has enough story behind them to be the focus of a session, an adventure, or even a whole campaign. Having this many in one place is just a fantastic wealth of riches for any GM to create with. Bestiary. Just as I always seem to gravitate towards the styles section of the Suede Companion series as my favorite, the bestiaries are never far behind, and this is not a disappointment in that department. Initially, I thought to myself, with all the beasts that I have in the Pathfinder Bestiary, the Fantasy Companion, the core rulebook, and the different other supplemental materials, what could they possibly provide that I don't already have something close to? Well, turns out the answer is quite a lot. There are more than 150 stat blocks in this section, and as usual, the real stars are the blatant pop culture stand-ins. I found clear references to Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers,
yeah, baby,
Freddy Krueger, Audrey 2,
Feed me Seymour.
and Vecna, as well as zombie dragons, a skeletal T-Rex for you Dresden fans, the fishmen of Innsmouth, and the full slate of aliens up to the Queen. This whole section is another area where Pinnacle clearly knows what their system excels at and how they can make GM's lives easier. There is so much here that it is really hard to do it justice, so all I can really say is, trust me, it's really good. Cthulhu Mythos. Just when you think, wow, what a great ride and well worth the price of admission, this little beauty has one more surprise in store. In an appendix at the back of the book, there is a separate bestiary just covering Mythos stat blocks. This includes the Color Out of Space, Dark Young, Dimensional Shamblers, Flying Polyps, Gugs, Hounds of Tyndalos, Migo, Shoggoths, and Yith. Then, if you really want to get crazy,
come on, let's get nuts.
You have stats for Cthulhu, the King in Yellow, and Nyarlathotep. When you take all this information and combine it with the number of different Mythos beings that you already have covered in different places throughout Savage Worlds, as many have become so ubiquitous that we don't even realize they are part of the Mythos anymore, we have the makings of a very good Cthulhu-oriented game right within the Suede rules set. This was something that was unexpected on my part, but as a fan of Lovecraftian horror, I am extremely satisfied not only that it was included, but also to the level of care they put into making sure that they did it well. That is a pretty impressive thing to say about an appendix to an already great book. Summary. So what more is there to say about the Suede Horror Companion? Well, plenty, really. I've only scratched the surface, but I don't have enough time to really do this thing justice, so I'm going to focus on something I touched on a bit in an earlier section. This book is a drawer in your Suede toolbox. It provides you with several different tools for the various jobs that you will tackle as a Savage Worlds GM, and it does them all capably. If it stopped there, it would be well worth the $40 for many GMs. But where it really makes itself invaluable is in the interactions with the other companions and being able to really build specific stories that fit so seamlessly in the Savage World system that one could be forgiven for forgetting that this is a universal game system. For example, I'm running my Savage Worlds on the Sword Coast campaign for my regular gaming group, and our next session is the weekend before Halloween. I've been running that primarily out of the Fantasy Companion with some Savage Pathfinder mixed in, but this upcoming session I will be mixing in some nice surprises from the Horror Companion to theme the game to the holiday. Even if it weren't Halloween, I could see myself using the Monstrous Hero section the next time a player contracts lycanthropy or their beloved character dies. Want to come back as a revenant? There's a cost. Or possibly dropping the Necronomicon in an old dusty tomb. This book, like the other Companion series books, really opens up your options as a creative GM and keeps your players wondering, is there anything that isn't possible in this game? The answer, of course, is no. No, there isn't. But those are my thoughts, and I would love to hear yours. Have you given the Horror Companion a look yet? If you have, what are your opinions? Would you ever consider playing a World of Darkness game using Savage Worlds as the core rule set? If you were to run a horror-based game on a popular movie series, which would it be and why? Let's talk about all this and more in the comments section. Thank you for watching this, and until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.